finally covered all of the 9 core competencies.
Yay.
And so now we're moving into stages of development, starting with stage 1.
I'll do a really quick overview.
Really quick, yeah. Get everyone up to speed.
Everyone up to speed. All right. So there's a framework that we have called stages of development that we believe is pretty useful in terms of literally understanding how companies evolve, sort of how a business evolves from an idea all the way to something that someone would be able to happily sell or happily pass on to the next generation, to someone who they think would be a great steward for the company. And the stages of development model really actually has 7 stages of development, and it's based upon my version of it takes into consideration Elliott Jack's work on time span of responsibilities, right? And basically at the core, each of the stages has to do with the time span of the vision that the company has, which obviously is basically the time span of the vision that the founder and or CEO has, that the company is marching behind. So stage 1 is basically when a company is just proving product market fit. It's very short-term oriented. We got to figure out whether anybody is going to buy what we want to sell. Stage 2 is where you evolve from day to day, week to week, to sort of quarter to quarter. So it's anywhere up to a year's perspective. Stage 3 is we're looking out, we've gotten to the position where we can look out 1 to 2 years. Stage 4 is we can look out 2 to 5 years. We got stronger points of view of where we're going to be in 2 to 5 years. Stage 5 is 5 to 10. Stage 6 is 10 to 20. Stage 7 is 20 to 50. And there are no real businesses out there that go all the way to Elliott's stage 8, which is 50 to 100 years out. So stage 1 is literally day to day, week to week, month to month. We're just trying to prove product market fit. So that's what the focus is. That's what the founder's focus is. That's what everybody who's working in that business, that company, it's not really a company yet because you can't sell it to someone, but that's what they're all focused on. So it's a very short time span of focus. And the goals during stage 1 is typically just to prove product market fit. Now, product market fit, I like to think of product market fit in terms of 2 different dimensions. The dimension that almost everybody thinks about is, are people going to buy what you're selling? Are they going to pay money for your product and or service? The other one is, frankly, is can you raise capital, right? So have you done enough to explain what it is you're going to do so that someone's willing to invest? So instead of buying your products or service, they're buying your stock, right? They think of good enough, they think it's a strong enough idea to invest in it. So stage 1 is product market fit, right? And the time span of goals, as I said, typically less than 3 months. You typically in a stage 1 company, you have just a few people. Could be the founder plus a few other people. Could be co-founders, but everybody is just basically working on figuring out how to get product market fit. And there's really not a lot of structure in a stage 1 company. It's just everybody's working on stuff. We're trying to figure it out. You're going to work on stuff. I'm going to work on stuff. Maybe I'm an engineer. Maybe you're marketing. Maybe the founders, working on all this stuff, including fundraising, putting together an information or fundraising memo or something like that. So like I said, there's no real structure. There's no real reason to be worrying about, a lot of, putting like an org chart or an accountability chart together. It just doesn't, it's not a good use of time. So, usually because there's not a lot of need for structure, someone may be just focused on marketing. Someone else may be focused on engineering. Someone may be focused on fundraising. But there's no real core centers of excellence or functional areas. It's just we're dividing and conquering based upon our areas of expertise. Does that make some sense?
That does make sense.
Okay. Typically maybe there's, junior and senior people, but once again, it's just everybody knows they're junior and senior people. We're not like putting some org chart up. And at the risk of stating the obvious, if the founder gives up, the business is gone, or the co-founders give up, it's gone, right? And so sometimes there's no money invested at all. It's just everybody's doing, sweat equity. It's not even paying salaries or anything. And the whole focus is just, right, to prove some form of viability. It's to be able to continue to play the game. So, in short, those are the characteristics of a stage one company. And if you look at those characteristics, time span of a founder's focus, or time span of the goals, right? Roles of leaders, structure, centers of excellence, layers of complexity, the nature of the business in terms of the criticality of the founder, the financial status, the founder's focus. As the business has evolved from stage one to stage two to stage three to stage four to stage five and beyond, every one of those categories changes. But today's focus on stage one. So where would you like to drill into?
I think, right, stage one's a crucial survival type stage.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you're starting a fire and you got
Prove there's a reason for you to exist.
yeah, you're a fire, you get the kindling going, you got to be very, very careful with it, right?
Yeah.
But also it's unstructured.
Yeah.
Right.
Wind can
it's a different
come.
Game.
Blow it out, little rain comes, it's all gone.
When you're stage one, right, and it's unstructured, it's kind of chaotic, right? You're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. You're someone's doing everything, and when you bring on more people, they have a lot of different roles that they're doing and are running around, trying to make it work, trying to keep the boat afloat.
Yes.
What do you focus on, right? From a founder's perspective, what are the things you have to make sure that you're executing on?
Well, ultimately, it's making progress towards, whatever is essential for you to be able to prove product market fit, whether it's to be able to go out and raise capital, or it's just to start getting people to buy what it is you're selling. Or, sometimes it's just going around and saying, hey, I've got this idea, right? If I can make this, and this happen, would you be interested in buying it? Right? So, so sometimes you don't even need to literally create the product in stage one. You just need to have confidence. You just need to get to the place where, you're willing to, put a lot of resources into, into creating the company. You're willing to put real resources into finding customers, finding potential investors. You're willing to dedicate some resources towards these activities because you have this vision and you're driven by it and you think it could really make sense. So at some point or another in stage one, you're just looking for confidence that you can do it.
You just need that evidence that it works.
You need some evidence, right? That because you need that evidence not just for you and your psyche, right? But you need that evidence to get some other people to help you.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's marketing or engineering or even design or presentations, but you can't, stage one is more than just, I've got an idea, right? Stage one is I've got an idea, me and other people are working it, we're figuring out how to sell it, whether it's sell it so that we can raise capital or whether it's literally to sell it so that people buy it. We're figuring out crawl, walk, run, whether or not, the idea is even, got some people who's interested in it, even before you start manufacturing or doing the engineering, right? You should find out whether or not, this idea is going to resonate with someone. The product vendor is the service, right?
Yeah. Because sometimes you don't actually put the product out for a while, right? If you look at like an OpenAI or something, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna advance a lot before we actually put anything out.
Well, but their product market fit was they brought in, obviously they got a bunch of people and they raised capital.
Yes.
Right?
Or they didn't actually, right? But they didn't sell
They didn't sell a product. They didn't have any revenue, but they did raise money.
Yes.
Right? So they attracted capital.
They sold the idea of the product and the execution of it, the progress of it, right? Because they had the evidence that it's working, that's coming along.
Yeah.
Even though there was no revenue.
And then so, because I think this probably is part of how we should do this, right? And so at some point, obviously, they raised enough capital to where it started to make sense for them to actually have dividing and conquering and start to have some structure, right? And have sort of individual contributors and some team leaders and some experts, right? And so sometimes you can go from stage one to stage three very, very swiftly because you raise the capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, if you want to move through those stages, obviously some situations and industries, it's going to be way swifter than others.
Yeah.
But right, if you want to move from stage 1 to stage 2, right, what are those things? What are those rites of passage where what do you have to do to get to advance the next stage?
Well, in theory, right, if you're a wealthy individual, right, and you've bootstrapped it, right, you can get to stage 3 without generating any revenue, right? You can probably get to stage, if you've got a lot of money, you can get to stage 4 without any revenue. But most companies, right, they start to generate revenue either in stage 1 or stage 2. Most businesses. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
So what are in stage 1, what are the challenges that you're going to be facing more so than stage 2 or so on?
Once again, it's just product market fit, right? Because unless you have enough capital as an individual, the founders have enough capital, right? Then, they can go to stage 3 without really having product market fit because they just have the capital to go and hire people and create structure and dividing and conquering. That means they have a lot of conviction around what they're doing. But I don't think that's particularly normal. Yeah. I think, clearly you have some founders out there who can, who've had a track record of success and could, basically raise capital and swiftly go to stage 3 because there are investors who believe in them, so they can go out and explain their idea, and then raise some money, and now all of a sudden go hire people and go hire really good people in marketing or really good people in engineering and really good people in recruiting or finance or whatever it is that they feel like they need to hire in order to be positioned for the next stage.
So if you are one of those, if you are someone able to bootstrap it,
yes,
right, and you're like, I want to start stage 2 basically.
Mm-hmm.
What experiences, what wisdom, what skills do you need to have to basically run through stage 1 and get to stage 2?
There's always exceptions to all the rules, obviously, right? But it depends on the nature of the company, right? So if it's an engineering company, you're going to need sooner or later engineers, right? And then now the question is, how long are we going to be just working on the product? OpenAI is a great example, right? They probably could have been predominantly product and engineering for the first 3 or 4 stages, just product and engineers, right? We're just going to work on this, and we're confident that ultimately, we're going to get to a place where we need marketing, right? And it's even, I would submit that they probably, as soon as they raise capital, right, they need to have someone who oversees accounting and payroll and things like that. So you got some person needed to do that. But you could be, an accountant, fractional even CFO, and then, someone to help you hire people. And then maybe there's, there's engineers and there's product people, and that's the team for several years.
You don't need sales
and no
marketing.
revenue. Don't need sales. Don't need marketing. Mm-mm.
Yeah, you still need like a CFO. You probably need HR or something.
Yeah.
At that point,
you're recruiting people, so someone needs to take responsibility for that. And then you have capital, so you need to be, obviously setting bank accounts and things like that. And you could obviously leverage outside resources for legal and things like that. But you could, in my opinion, you don't get to stage 5 until, stage 5 basically means that the company could survive and prosper without the founder, right? That's the big idea there. And so in theory, could you get to stage 5 without any revenue? In theory, because you've built an amazing product. You haven't sold it yet, but someone would buy it.
Buy the product.
Yeah.
But then when you open up those floodgates and then right, that becomes a dynamic. It's a different game.
Yeah.
Enough, right? Not a wholly different game where you're completely changing the nature of things.
Yeah.
But you still want that founder, that visionary, and that seat to make sure that we're keeping that thread the same throughout that journey.
Well, what happens if the companies, because this is, we're talking the exceptions,
Yes,
now, right?
agreed.
So someone, and I'm not, I'm not steeped in sort of bringing drugs to market, but if someone came up with an amazing idea to bring a drug, and you go through all these phases, clinical phases, right? You're not getting any revenue for years and years and years, right? But the product could be far enough along where, you've done all the work that someone's willing to buy the product. Now, are they buying the company? They're buying the product. I would argue they're buying the product.
Especially in that case, 100%.
In that case, right? So you really haven't built a stage 5 company. You've built a valuable product. But from my definition, it's not a stage 5 company at this point.
Yeah, well, and right in that example too, it's already probably going to be stage 5. But if you're in the realm of like we're putting drugs, right, we're doing all the research there, going through trials, testing, and then putting it out to market. Right? It's like this is not going to be your first time doing that,
right? No,
it's a high barrier to entry.
Yeah, very much
industry.
So. Yeah, and obviously
things too.
And obviously, in order to make that happen, you have to raise a fair bit of capital.
Yes,
right, to play that long game, because some drugs take, once again, this is not my area of expertise.
Put a little disclaimer at the bottom.
Big disclaimer, right? But 5 to 10 years sometimes to go through all of the trials and everything before you can start making money off the drug.
Yeah, a lot of hours, a lot of people involved in that,
a lot of capital,
right? And if it doesn't go through, right.
But that's I don't know what percentage of the startups was. We're probably talking about a very small percentage,
very small
of businesses.
OpenAI is like it's one of them where and then the people involved in that, right? Those are power players where you expect something like that, right? It's not the same thing as right, Elon starting SpaceX is not the same thing as Elon doing PayPal. Those are very those are completely
very different
things.
Moments in time.
And that matters.
Different stories.
One of those things where if you are stage 5 versus stage 1, your ability to take on risk, right, it's huge. It's very different.
Yes,
right. We could do 10 years dedicated to something, and if it doesn't pass trial, it's like, well, that's not fun, but you move on and it's fine.
Right.
Usually. Right.
Yeah.
But obviously stage 1, you can't do that. So what would you say is a appropriate level of risk for most stage 1 companies out there?
I'd love to do the research on this, right? But I think it's, sometimes it's people who this is their night job, right? And so they're, they have a day job and they've got an idea and they're going around and socializing it, and maybe they can get 2 or 3 people to help them. Maybe they have enough money to actually to hire a couple people to help them, get something to the place where they can go out and prove the concept, whether it's selling the product and or getting people to sign up. If you do this, I will buy it, or whether or not it's raising capital. Stage 1 is definitely where you're just figuring it all out. And you have not done enough work really to raise the capital. That comes in stage 2. So,
right, raising capital, is that usually stage 2, or is that pretty much?
Well, once again, gets back to product market fit, right?
Yeah.
So I would submit to you that whether it's people are buying your product or they're investing in you, that's the big event that enables you to move from stage 1 to stage 2. Makes sense?
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Anything else do you want to throw on for stage 1?
Every single company goes through stage 1. Right? It's just a question of how fast. And for some businesses, for some teams, right, it could take months and months and months. For others, it's like that because, you've got an idea and you've got the network and people are willing to invest and back you. And then, for others, it's going to take a while just to create a proof of concept and take it out there and put in front of enough people that you're willing to actually turn the proof of concept into an actual thing, right? In software, right? Something that'll actually start to work and people bang on and they're paid for, right? The amount of time you spend in stage one can vary significantly. Some people, if there's their night job, they could be in stage one for literally years, right? I've got this idea, I'm writing about it, and
or it's just something that's not, right? Something very niche.
Yeah.
Right. Where it's like, we're only going to sell 100 widgets a year, and I want to do it because it solves one of my needs or something like that. And
but even then,
they like a lot of spearfishing companies, right?
Yeah, but you're making revenue already.
Yeah.
So then you've moved into stage two.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think stage two is when capital comes in, whether it's through investors or when it comes through selling your product. But it's not just a one sale, right? It's enough. You've got enough evidence that you can move and start hiring people and start creating some structure and dividing and conquering.
Yeah. And having that be those roles and responsibilities be explicit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because, there are a lot of stage two businesses that are out there that, if I started a lawn care company, right? And I've just got some people working for me, right? I'm knocking on doors, right? And then if I get the house, right? I've got I've got a couple people who will push the lawnmowers around. That's a stage two business, right? And if I'm doing everything and I've got some workers working for me, it's a stage two. Now, obviously, if I go away, if I stop doing sales, if I stop doing marketing, if I stop, right, sending out invoices, business goes away.
Yeah. Well, then they'll go find other jobs.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good way to transition into the stage two.
Stage two.
Next time.
All right.
And we'll put the link to the stages guide.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the guide. I think there's maybe even a brief as well. I think we have both.
Whatever we have.
Yeah.
It will be in the description below.
Plus probably a link if we have talked about stages before.
Yes.
A link to that podcast.
We can link to that one. Put it. I don't know. I feel like you're just like one of those YouTubers like, yeah, it's going to be in the top left corner. Click on it. If it's there, give it a thumbs up. Yeah. I have no idea if it's going to be there. But yeah.
Well, or in the early stages.
Yes. This is like a stage 2 podcast. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.